Welcome to Tehachapi, the City of Tehachapi's podcast, where we share conversations with local leaders, business owners, and community members. Don't miss an episode. Be sure to follow and subscribe to learn something new and discover ways to get involved in our community. It's Tehachapi time. Key Budge, Greg Garrett, Corey Costello. We're together, guys.
Yeah, hello.
Yes, good evening.
Three Musketeers.
Good
Good
afternoon. Whatever.
It's been a while
never
since
worked
Corey.
past 5:30.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Whatever it might be. Yeah.
It's been a while since the three of us have been together. I think I say that every time we sit together because it's so infrequently.
I really like it because I think the three of us gel
He
together.
doesn't have to see us very often.
Yeah.
That's where he's going.
Yeah.
I really like that we don't see each other very often, Key.
I just wanted to roll past that into something more productive. But okay, I got you, Key. I got you.
Yeah.
Well, I invited you both in today because our guests, I thought, were perfect fits for the three of us to talk about. And just kind of for our guest benefit, we have multiple hosts for our show. Tehachapi has evolved over the 7 years we've been doing it. We've got more than 600 episodes in the can that are out there.
Wow.
But the one thing that we've learned is that it's good to have a variety of perspectives from the host seat to talk to our guests. So I wanted to pull Greg in as our city manager, Corey in as the assistant city manager and economic development coordinator. When we reached out to you gentlemen, who we have Ron Wareham and Gary Blackburn from the Kern Transportation Foundation. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good to be here.
Appreciate it.
And we thought with what's coming up, there's a conference coming up in a few weeks in Bakersfield. It's important for the community to be aware of it. They may be able to participate, but just having the knowledge of what's going on, what the Kern Transportation Foundation does, it impacts all of us as Kern County residents.
Absolutely.
So, gentlemen, let's talk first about the conference that's coming up and kind of tease the public about what to look forward to, and then we'll kind of dig into some of the meat of what the foundation does.
Very good. From a perspective of the community and the transportation entities that we work with, we'd like to keep the public informed on what is going on your neighborhoods and your freeways. The traffic we know has increased tremendously over the last 15, 20 years. And we like to let the public know we've got a lot of development in construction in our major thoroughfares. What's going on with the trucking entities that we know that the people would like to know why do we have so many trucks, and what is being done to help us alleviate the traffic situations that we find the community in. That's one of our functions as a nonprofit group that we are. And Gary has been in the transportation industry along with me for the last 30, 40 years. And so we both have the knowledge of the community along with the knowledge of what's happening within the community to help the public.
And so your conference is Wednesday, May 13, down in Bakersfield. Where is that conference, and how would you potentially attend or sponsor?
Well, the way to do
Educated.
it is to go onto the Kern Transportation Foundation.org webpage and then go to events, and then it'll take you right to tickets and tell you all about it. But it is on May 13th. It's a Wednesday. It starts at 7 a.m. That's when it officially starts, and then we have our meeting at 8 a.m. till like 12:30.
And it'll be out at the Career and Technical Education
CTEC.
Center on Old River.
Old River Road.
Yeah, we
correct.
were just out there for a STEM Expo. With
Isn't that a great facility?
Oh, yeah.
Took Tehachapi on the road and recorded with some kids out there.
We did.
That's good.
So I'd like to say this much. I mean, I've been involved with conferences with the KTF since 1996, and I think this panel is probably the best group of people, the best cross-section of modes that we've ever had. Can I list a few
please,
of them?
yeah.
Okay. So we've got a couple of panels that we've got. The government panel will have the county public works director and somebody from Kern Cog. I don't know if it's Rob Ball or not, but someone from Kern Cog. That's on the government panel. We have the director of the airports for Kern County, Bill Lomanique. He'll be there. We have a rail panel, and Union Pacific, San Joaquin, and BNSF are going to be represented. We have Rob Ball also doing a cargo study update, and that is a study that Ron and I actually have been involved in for 10 years. We were part of that. We also have the Port of Los Angeles represented, Marcel Van Dyke. He's the marketing manager, and basically the supply chain problems that we have in America start at the port. If there's an issue there, then it's magnified all throughout the whole country. So Marcel Van Dyke. We have the owner of Rody's Transportation is going to be there. He's the largest reefer owner in the county. And then our keynote speaker, his name is Jeremiah Heaton. He's got a fantastic product he's trying to get some traction under. Basically, it's repositioning trucks on the railroad. And it's something I want to learn more about. I've been in transportation since 1977, so a long time. So he's got an interesting take on doing this.
Yeah, that's actually on your flyer. I see that. I now that you just pointed it out, I just thought it was trucks on a road, but it's these trucks
on the railroad.
They're on the rail line with other trucks kind of on a flatbed. That's okay. That's interesting.
Oh, wow. I'm just looking at a highway, but that's the rail.
That's the rail.
It's a piece of equipment that they're building, evidently, and it's got a flatbed that the truck backs into, and there's a little condo that the driver gets to stay in as he gets repositioned wherever it is he's going. So what does that do? Well, that takes a truck off the road, number one. It helps with air quality, number two, and gives him a chance to get his logbook caught up with him, number three, and rest.
So are they looking at short distances, like something that goes from the San Joaquin Valley into Mojave, where they can kind of, much further
It may
than
be
that?
longer than that.
What they're really trying to do is something that has been looked at. This concept that they're looking at is something that actually started at a couple of colleges, from my understanding of it. And what I know about it is the flat car is a vehicle unto itself. It could be put on the track one at a time by itself and go to destinations where it's programmed to go. It doesn't run by a locomotive. It runs itself. And this concept started many, many years ago, and I'm very interested in hearing what this gentleman has to say, because I was involved in this way back in the 90s. They started at a tech school doing this. They tested it out in desert areas. I've not met this gentleman yet, and I haven't had a chance to sit down with him. But the program that I was involved in back then was sponsored by some very influential people and some very brilliant minds. And it's a totally new concept. It's not new in itself, but it's new what this gentleman's doing.
And the fact that you have BNSF and UP there as well.
It's going to be interesting to hear what they have to say.
Yeah.
Knowing I worked for the BNSF back in my day, it was at Santa Fe, right here in the valley. I started out in the yard and worked my way up to being, I worked in sales and marketing, and Bakersfield was part of my territory at that time. And so this is a very interesting concept. I'm very familiar with it back in the 90s and early 2000s, but I'm not in tune with what he's doing. Back in the day, one of the major shippers who I won't mention, we sat in conferences many, many times talking about this exact same thing. When I left the railroad, I started my own company doing service on certain refrigerated trailers called Pre-Trip. And this idea is not new, but it's something that is like outer space.
Getting closer and closer to being able to execute it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
On top of that, though, if you ever look at the YouTube that he's got, knock your socks off if you haven't seen it. I mean,
So A to B Robotics is his company,
Yeah.
right? Okay, interesting.
It is a very interesting concept. It's,
in theory, I think it's really fantastic. I mean, practical application, he may have some issues.
You
But
read my mind. The railroads are regulated by the federal government, as we all know.
Yeah.
And then between Tehachapi and Bakersfield, there's a one-track scenario. And so with one track, that's certainly a bottleneck. I know that taxpayers paid for a double tracking down by the loop some time ago with Prop, I think 1A, check me on that, Prop 1A funds. But it's a single track, and that's a bottleneck for sure. But that certainly could be overcome, that's for sure.
I can fill you in on what you just said. I was involved in the early 90s. I started a project called the International Trade and Transportation Center out on 7th Standard Road in Bakersfield. And being as my background was with the Santa Fe Railway, and we were just when I had my pre-trip company, all we did was trailers because containers were not put on trains at that time. And one of the biggest boggle down things for us was going over the loop. We could move a trailer on a flat car, TOFC, but we couldn't move a COSC because double stacks couldn't fit. So I started a campaign with the BNSF and the UP to fix the Tehachapi Loop. And it took me 8 years. And finally, they put a 12-year program in place, and which I still have a copy of, and they completed allowing double stacks. That's why all the work got done. They daylighted 5 tunnels, put runarounds at some, and I did a Huell Hauser in 1999 on that loop. I did a 45-minute program that I taped with a newscaster from ABC. We did that tape. I still have the tape, but it's they did perform. They sent me the deal that they were doing, and it took them 12 years to fix it so we could get double stack and the tunnels. People don't know this, but each 5 years, the BNSF and the UP switch off managing that loop every 5 years, and the one that has it has to do the maintenance. So that's why the contract to do the loop took 12 years.
Oh.
Wow.
They're trying to make sure each of them got a piece of that action. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But now it runs very efficiently compared to back then.
But the Transportation Conference is not just about rail, right?
No,
You had mentioned earlier freeways, highways, streets and roads, airports, passenger trains, anything and everything, transportation.
Right.
Right. So maybe we can talk a little bit about, I know that you said you have the County of Kern Airport Director.
Right.
That's going to be on one of your panels. So let's talk airports a little bit. Air travel, I know that these days with the air mobility.
Advanced air mobility.
Advanced air mobility and let's say drones. That'll take you from a small town to a larger airport, if you will, so that we can connect people via the air to air transportation, right? A 1 mile of runway.
Is that vertical takeoff?
That is.
Correct.
Exactly.
Vertiports.
Vertiports, yeah.
It's being used already in Kern County. People don't know this. A wonderful company goes from Buttonwillow to the airport with their drones, delivering paperwork and stuff already.
Yeah.
They're already using it.
Well, I know Walmart is big into it. Amazon, in the larger cities where it makes a little more financial sense. But tell us what maybe we can expect to hear from our friend at Kern County Airports. Any insights there?
Well, I think Ron is probably the expert on the international
One of the things that
facility
is missing again here in Kern County that I brought to the table back when I was doing the ITTC, when I did that, we became an inland port, worked with the Port of LA, and we were actually an inland port at the ITTC. Tejon has their inland port. We had it there, but when they took out the Mexico travel, they cut off the inland port because you have to have an international port inside of your county to a customs office and so on and so forth. And when they stopped flying internationally, and that's one of the biggest things we wanted to have the new airport director here with us, and that's going to be one of the questions. And I'm sure that the wonderful company will have somebody there that can listen.
That'd be great, yeah.
And we need to get that inland port, and we need to get the international airport designation back.
Seems like we're terribly behind.
Amen.
On all things transportation. When we talk about the nearly $1 billion project down in Bakersfield with Highway 58 and 99.
Yes, we just drove that.
The
We
West
talked
Side
about it
Parkway,
today.
which has really opened up commerce, that's for sure. It's been a super positive thing. They still have some projects left, some on and off ramps to do. I know the city of Tehachapi has been working closely with Caltrans, Key, and Senator Grove on this climbing lane project between Bakersfield and Tehachapi on Highway 58. The first leg of that, early 27. So that's a big deal.
It is.
And so
It is a big
we're
deal.
so far behind, but it seems like people like you and many others recognizing it and pushing it, and because we need to bring it to the forefront so that we don't fall further behind.
Part of that is 5 years ago, the Santa Fe Railway called me, BNSF called me and said, we have 4 students graduating out of major college. We'd like you to do a transportation study for San Joaquin Valley, the southern end, because of the Tehachapi Loop and 58. So I had these 4 students, and believe me, they were brilliant. And we spent better part of 2.5 months doing a transportation study, and that's exactly what we worked on. Was we need that truck traffic going over 58 has to have their own lanes. That was something we came to the conclusion with that study. So
Because it's one of the largest, and that goes back and forth. But as far as volume and sort of per day, it's right near the top, if not the top of the east-west routes in
Yes,
the
it
U.S.
is.
as far as freight
Yep.
movement of goods. I mean, you drive from here, even from Tehachapi, if you're heading to Las Vegas, for example, you catch 100+ Walmart trucks from the Shafter distribution center. They all say
Absolutely.
Shafter, California on the back, and they're all coming from Shafter through Tehachapi, up through, and heading out to I-15 or to I-40, going even further east.
Well, when I did the ITTC, my main product, what I was bringing to the table, they had closed the ramp in downtown Bakersfield. And the wonderful company has taken the plan now. They're now building the intermodal that I was going to build on that property. They're building it right now, and they'll be done here in the next 6 months. And that will really, really help the east-west part of the valley.
I think
No
the
doubt about it.
majority of the containers that come into the Port of Oakland come down either I-5 or 99 and then up the 58 eastbound. So, and then every time a new warehouse is built in the San Joaquin Valley, Bakersfield, Fresno, which I completely support, but that is more trucks on the road. And so I'm super happy that the 58 climbing lane, one of the 3 climbing lanes,
Yeah.
is going to start here. in the
And I
next
have
year and a
worked
half.
with the Port of Oakland exclusively too, talking exactly about what you just said. And what we're working with, that's why we need the designation of international and have an inland port situation with both the Port of Oakland and the Port of LA. It needs to happen. Port Waimea doesn't get mentioned as often as it does, but they are in the process of rebuilding and going to double their size. People don't understand that, but that would give us more traffic on our road coming here.
And automating too. A lot of these
Yes,
ports
they
are
are.
automating,
Oh,
which
yes, they
means when
are.
you automate, they're going to be working longer hours. They're going to be
Yes.
working faster and
Well-
more efficiently. So more trucks that are going to need to take processed goods out of the ports and
Exactly.
wherever they're going from there,
And
rail,
this,
whatever it
this,
might be.
this concept that this gentleman's coming with, that's why I'm very anxious to hear this on the May 13th. The only kickback to it is are the other railroads going to join in? And that's something that, even the short lines are not allowed on the main line of any of the railroads.
Correct.
And you've only got 6 main Class 1 railroads, the BNSF, the UP, Kansas City Southern, and there are only 6 of them, and they will not allow short line railroads or other locomotives or movement on their lines.
Short line, like a regional or a smaller.
Right.
Okay. Point A to
That was
point
my
B.
last job with the Santa Fe, was closing down the branch lines in the valley.
But they won't allow Amtrak either. Tehachapi
Not
used
on the
to
main.
have-
Well, they
right.
do. Yeah, they do.
They used
yeah,
to.
They do.
Well, only once whenever they closed
Yeah. Yeah.
the Starlight or the Coastline. But Amtrak is
No.
no longer on our rail.
Yeah, they are. Right out of Bakersfield all the way to Martinez.
Oh yeah, that's heading
but not
heading
coming
northbound,
this way.
not
No,
eastbound.
not
yeah.
over-
not over the loop. No,
Yeah.
no. They did for a while,
They
but
did
then
for
they stopped.
77,
Yeah, they
8 was
stopped
the last
decades
passenger. It wasn't
ago.
Amtrak, whatever the passenger
82.
train was. Yeah, 82.
But that's
yeah.
a transportation enhancement, right? I
Oh,
mean,
absolutely, yeah. But I can understand the reasoning if you've worked for the railroad. I mean, you have a 2-mile train and you have a 6-car Amtrak. Who's going to pull off?
Yeah.
Where are you going to pull off on a passing track?
Yeah.
The Amtrak has to pull off because you got a 2-mile train going 70 miles, 60, 80 miles an hour. The ones that got a giveaway, you don't stop them. They don't stop. They take 1.5 miles, 2 miles to stop. So, that's the problem. And even right here, people don't know this, but the valley is well known for running good speeds when you run the railroad. And the Amtrak that runs from Bakersfield they have very, very specific hours. And it's usually off-hour freight time. And because there's not that many passing tracks where they can pull off and a 1.5 mile, 2-mile train. And that's one of the things that I think the Kern Transportation Foundation does. When they look at our website and when they talk to our people, we let them know that there's things out there, the rail, especially the airlines, and how important it is for commerce to have the foreign trade zone and have the customs here in Bakersfield.
Yeah. I know that just before you guys, I was probably right alongside you coming up from Bakersfield. I was down there earlier this morning doing the dance with the truckers coming up, going eastbound, doing it back and forth. You guys go back to, was it 1992 you said the foundation was created?
Correct.
92, yeah.
And then at what point, is that about when you started looking at climbing lanes, or is that something that...
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
so I know that our council member, Phil Smith, has been a part of Kern Cog, and that conversation's at least 30 years old.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he's been around for quite a while trying to push truck climbing lanes. So.
he's one of those that gets incredibly excited when we start talking about, hey, we're getting close.
Good.
So I know he's worked really hard on that.
The previous chair or executive director of Kern Cog, Aaron Akimi, that was like one of his pet projects, was to
Yep.
get these passing lanes going, and he worked the entire time he was director on getting that underway, and I think he's close with the opening there. I think it's super. But yeah, today we paid the price. There's only 2 lanes, and then they had one that was being repaired.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Remember that?
That's right.
So then you're down to 1 lane.
Right.
So they should have had 3 or at least climbing lanes when they built it in the first place.
Right.
Yeah, and I came up upon a couple of oversized loads, too, coming up the hill.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did too.
Yeah.
Then a couple of truckers playing with each other.
Yep.
They do. It's that part of that dance. Now, if you're a member of the public that's listening, what is it, do you think, that would benefit them if they wanted to go and attend the conference? What is going to be a takeaway for them?
I'll tell you what, I brought my students in a couple of years ago because I said, hey, I'm going to give you some extra credit if you attend this conference. And one of them met me at the door as she was leaving. She goes, you know what, you opened up a door to me that I didn't even know this world even existed before you started teaching these classes. And now at the conference, we had somebody from Ross there as a speaker, Ross Stores, which was her boss. And she goes, I've learned so much. I'm looking at things now from 50,000 feet, when before I didn't even know they existed. So that's what the public can learn is, how does all this stuff happen? How does all the product get from China to Shafter to the different stores? And then you can talk about just-in-time inventory control. So there's 5 major modes of transportation in this world, and we're discussing 4 of them because the 5th one is pipelines. We don't talk about pipelines too much, but it is a major mode of transportation.
Just a little background on Gary. And I've known Gary I came here in '82, and my wife and his wife were somehow related, and we got to know each other very well. And we were both in transportation. But Gary, when he left transportation, became a professor at the college teaching transportation classes. And you can actually get a degree in it now because of Gary, what he's done. But he's been a professor there for quite a while. And one of the colleges that finally took this on is Long Beach State. In fact, they use my name, International Trade and Transportation Center. They actually give out a master's in transportation at Long Beach.
Makes sense. I mean, the Port of Long Beach is an impressive operation.
Yeah. Well, I was involved very, very heavily with the Port of L.A. In fact, we were a subzone of the Port of L.A. here in Bakersfield when I had the ITTC.
Yeah, I know all these things too, especially when we talk about whether it's ports, inland ports, distribution centers. I know they're very popular. Obviously, Kern County's gone into them, but other counties across the state. And I know certain areas, like you go through the Moreno Valley right now out of 215, and it is nothing but wall-to-wall distribution centers with more signs that say 4 million square feet coming soon. And the exits are backed up with semi-trucks. And actually, one time we were at a trade show, and I tried talking to someone from Moreno Valley about it, and they got mad that I brought up, like, well, how come the roads haven't been wide? Oh, that's Caltrans' problem. I said, yeah, but you're building all these distribution centers. Yeah, I gotta go. And they walked away from me. They got mad because I'm like, hey, I drove through there on the way here. You know, I noticed there's not a lot of transportation, but there's a lot of distribution around it. So,
do you know that almost 6 cities now have banned distribution centers in the Inland Empire? They've just totally banned it.
Air quality is one of the reasons.
Right.
Yes.
And gridlock
and
traffic.
Like you say, coming out of Bakersfield, your traffic.
Yeah.
And I was involved with Moreno Valley, by the way.
Oh, okay.
I'd left here and I was gone back down south for quite a few years in China and so on. But the gentleman that had that started lost it. He built the Skechers and he built half it and they had to bond it and so on and so forth. Yeah. And it's just now starting to come back.
Yeah,
but the problem is they don't have any transportation corridors.
No, there's not at all.
You run from
215. That's it.
Well, you run the 60, you're right into the Badlands from Moreno Valley.
Yeah.
You know, not to toot my horn or anything, but we're in the process of doing another 1,600-acre park right across the street from the wonderful company.
Okay.
With a local farmer that I've been a consultant for the last 8 years. And we're looking, data centers are the newest thing coming on board everywhere. And I just so happened to go to China, and I built the very first one in China with my group. That's what's happening more. So it's hard for them to come here to California because of the restrictions.
Correct.
So they're building other places, and they don't have the traffic with those, one thing. And they use 400 or 500 acres at when they're doing this. But the Central Valley is becoming major transportation corridor. Since the wonderful company took over my X project, they have about 15 million square feet out there of distribution centers already. And
that's huge.
And we both have another 3,100 acres to go. It's not going to stop, and I think that what Kern Cog and ourselves are doing to let the public know what transportation needs to be put in place. And we've got a long ways to go.
Well, I look at some of the goals on the Kern Transportation Foundation website. And one is raise awareness of the value of transportation, which we're doing, obviously. And you partner with local organizations to identify transportation needs, kind of discussed. Ensure sustainable funding stream.
Yes.
That, one of the goals. Now, what kind of challenges and where do you see that coming into play?
Well, I mean, the sustainable part that's kind of a hot potato right now. So I don't know. I mean,
Well, the thing about it is that the public turnout at these meetings when we do a transportation study and we make it public, and we have something that comes up, whether it's your city commission here in Tehachapi or it's the city hall meeting in Bakersfield, we need to have the public come to the table and let our people in Sacramento that we need this funds to do these projects. I was a delegate in Washington, D.C. for a little while back in the 90s, and we wanted to do a 4-lane highway from 99 to 5 on 7 standard. It took us better part of 8 years to get that money. Bill Thomas finally got the money, and then it was diverted to other projects. So when you get the money to do a project, it needs to be labeled, like you said about, we got 1 lane coming for the trucking lane out to Tehachapi. They both should be started at once.
Yeah.
That's
what Ron said was right, though, because a lot of times you get the money earmarked and other cities want to take the money away from you. Now, at the KTF, when I was chair back in 2007, number one priority was the West Side Parkway because we knew Bakersfield was really an east-west town. North and south we were okay on, but east-west we were terrible. And so luckily they put that money into a trust account where they couldn't touch it, but they tried. There was like $750 million, and it stayed there until they got each of the phases done. That's the way it happened.
I know for me personally, it's changed my wife shopping habits, things that we go to visit, things that were, it's over on Southwest, I'm good. We're not going.
Or it cuts an hour off your drive over to the coast.
It does.
Yeah.
Well, it definitely
If you're
does
going
that
to
for sure.
Robles or something, yeah.
But it's opened me up. I found new restaurants and things that I normally would never have seen.
That's right.
Yeah.
So if I do have to go to Bakersfield, because I try to stay here and take care of my local economy here, but when I go down to Bakersfield, I've gotten exposed to new things thanks to the West Side Park. I never would have gone that far west.
But if you look at the little 2-lane section that's not yet complete from West Bakersfield to I-5, it's a 2-lane road, and it is packed with vehicles, including semis. So the semis have actually rerouted, their way from A to B. They're going down I-5, they're turning left on the 58, for 5 miles, 2-lane road, and then they connect to the world with the 4-lane Highway 58 coming up the hill. So that has increased our truck traffic in this area for sure. Well, everywhere from here to there.
Glad you bring that up. One of the things that we started, I was one of the founders of the Kern Transportation Foundation back in '92. What it was made for in the beginning was the half-cent to a penny sales tax. That's what this foundation was founded for. And when I was the head of the Chamber Transportation Committee, and when we failed by very few votes of not getting that money was for transportation. For that half-cent sales tax was in very much for improving transportation corridors.
Yeah.
And when we lost that, Ron Brumman and I, who was the head of Kern Cog at the time, decided, George asked me if we wanted to keep the nonprofit. I said, sure, we'll use it for a transportation foundation. And that's what it's been all along.
But you hit the nail on the head when you talk about raising taxes and delivering product, in this case, streets and roads, highways and byways, right?
Yep.
And so the federal government and the state government, they play games with these funds, right? And so, you can have a project with a budget and plan on it happening, but then they pull the rug out from under you, right? As a city manager of Tehachapi, I've been with the city almost 23 years, here in July, 23 years. I've seen every scenario possible. And we deal with that every day, not just, street money, road money, but everything else that we utilize, right? We don't design and manufacture and sell widgets. We provide services. Those services come from revenues, taxpayers, and ratepayers, right? And so I live and breathe that every day. So we are our own worst enemy when it comes to taxes, revenues, and pavement on the road, right? We do something other than we say. Not Tehachapi, but Sacramento and D.C. I live it every day, and it's quite maddening. We are our own worst enemy.
And I know this has come up, too, when you brought up that half-cent sales tax or 1 cent. I think it's Fresno County has what they kind of call a self-help tax.
Right.
They tax themselves, and then money goes in to road projects in Fresno County. I mean, if you drive in kind of greater Fresno area, they've got a bunch of new interchanges and a lot of this stuff.
Got
has
a lot of
become-
high-speed rail overpasses.
yeah, that money was used for high-speed rail, but but they do have a lot of road projects they've built because of that. So I know that's been brought up in the past. And going back to the traffic numbers, in 2024 we had about roughly 15,000 vehicles a day on Highway 58. As of last month, that number is closer to 17,000 now. It's 16,986. So in 2 years,
Just in
we've seen
24 months.
2,000 more cars a day. Cars, a lot of those also being trucks. It's vehicles a day, right? So a lot of those can go in as trucks. So to your point about expansion, we're seeing that expansion in the traffic count. So already 2,000 more vehicles a day in the last 2 years on 58, and this is measured at the Tehachapi Summit.
1,000 more every year, and it's compounding. Boom,
Yep.
boom, 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 boom.
Yep.
But you bring up a huge point. When I first started this, I was strictly San Joaquin Valley. But then when I got sent back to D.C., I never seen anything like it in my life. I mean, I started to build H.R. 1172 with Bill Thomas. We started out with about 60 pages. And by the time we got to committee, it was 680 pages.
Wow.
And to this day, I have no idea what tree frogs had to do with transportation. And that was in the early 90s, mid-90s.
They spend a lot of money on paper and not enough on asphalt.
Yes.
Perfect.
So what Ron said a minute ago about the half-cent sales tax not passing, and the reason it didn't is because you've got to have a 2/3 majority to
Yep.
say it's not simple majority
Specific,
like
yeah.
it should be.
Right.
Right.
It should be if we're in a democracy, it should be 51%. Oh no, it's 66,
Yep.
66 point whatever percent, and we came close. I think it was
Yeah, we
59
did.
or 61, but it's hard to get 66% of the people to agree on anything in this country.
Oh, yeah.
It really is. So, and then they tried to pass another bill that said, okay, it's going to be a simple majority. That didn't pass either. So, and the comment about self-help, yeah, self-help is a big deal because if you're self-help, that means you're contributing to your own project. The CTC, California Transportation Commission, puts you up higher on the totem pole on where the money goes. If we're non-self-help, you're at the bottom of the totem pole, basically. That's the problem we have.
You mentioned the High Speed Rail Commission. I was on the very first one, and I lasted about 3 meetings.
You saw the writing on the wall, huh?
Well, being an old railroad person,
Sure, made sense.
I had talked to a lot of my cohorts in Chicago and Texas, and I just didn't see it happening. Just didn't see it happening.
Yeah.
So I want to circle back to the KTF, though.
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
Let's do
the
that, Gary.
conference. The second most fascinating speaker after Jeremiah Heaton on this deal of repositioning trucks on the railroad is my favorite, Marcel Van Dyke from the Port of L.A. I mean,
Yep.
every year I learn something new, and I've been down there on the tour probably 5 times. I took my students down a couple of years ago, and I took them down there during the week where they got to see containers being loaded and unloaded. And I said, "You see that container ship there?" There's 30,000 containers on that ship. You don't see them all because there's about 8 stacks down below. But they were amazed, to watch the containers being loaded and unloaded by the cranes.
amazing.
And the crane operators, of course, they got the best job in the state. They make about $200,000 a year, but it's controlled by the union. So, but I mean, it really opens your eyes on what's going on. And about 3 Novembers ago, when there was a big problem with the port, there was about 10 reasons why there was a gridlock there. They had the ships out there for 2 weeks in San Pedro.
Yeah, I saw them in Huntington Beach. They were just
Yes.
sit out. They were just
Yep.
it was running a half marathon down there, and we just saw all
We
these
had over
cargo ships in the
200
bay.
at one time
Yeah,
Yeah,
sitting out there.
but they got it cleaned up, and they're still not 24/7 like they thought they were going to get to because the union won't approve it. But I mean, they opened up another few hours.
Yeah.
And maybe a little bit of time on a Saturday, I can't remember, but they got more time going, but still, it's not 24 hours a day even. So, but they were able to dig out, which was amazing, with 200 ships out in San Pedro. That's a lot to have to dig out from, but they did it. But he's the second most probably fascinating guy, and every year I love listening to him. So I'd like the people the public to come, and if they can, I mean, he's the guy that I would be watching for.
Yep.
Because he'll tell you the port sets the tone for supply chain issues all over the country.
Yep.
But on top of that, do you remember when the Suez Canal got blocked a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
A ship got turned sideways because of the wind.
Right.
that reverberated all around the world. You wouldn't think so, but it did.
Yep.
And Marcel brought that to the table. He said, you might not think Suez Canal is all that important, but it is.
Well, look at the Strait of Hormuz right now, right? What we're dealing with,
Exactly.
you know,
I was
that
just going to say that.
how much, like the Suez Canal, people probably didn't know what it was until
They didn't.
all of a sudden it impacted them, and now everybody's an expert.
They're saying they got 800 ships in that strait right now.
Yeah, it's crazy. Those little things they do. There's a big because, and I think all the work you all are doing in this conference and just in general, everything is connected with this transportation, with moving
absolutely.
people, goods, but it all
Absolutely.
has a downstream effect, and there's an upstream impact as well wherever you're at in the stream because it's all, it's all connected from point A to point B.
It is.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. It's and having these conferences is something that Gary and I started way back in the early 90s, and I left. I was gone for almost 12 years and came back, and we restarted it again. We've had some fantastic people at these conferences and I worked with Kern on studies. That almost every study that comes out, I'm being called and work on them because we need to do something now. Like you said, you drive from Bakersfield up here. We had to stop today because they were doing road signs, and 2 trucks were stopped, so we had to stop. And it just, it's going to happen more and more and more.
Right.
You guys will be impressed to know that the cargo study is actually on my iPad here. I was reading it not too long ago. From Kern Cog, the cargo study draft. So
Yeah.
yeah,
They're going to be talking about it.
Yeah, it's something. I know it's a subject of your conference as well. But yeah, I actually started reading that when they sent it out for public review because it impacts us, right? And we're talking cargo over 58. So got to know what's going on.
Well, the conference that we've been talking about is the 2026 Kern Transportation Conference, hosted by the Kern Transportation Foundation. 2 of the founding members are our guests today, Ron Wareham and Gary Blackburn. The conference is Wednesday, May 13th. 7 a.m. is the breakfast and check-in. 8 to 12 is the conference. It's at CTEC on Old River Road. You can get tickets at your website. Is that the KernTransportationFoundation.org?
That's exactly right.
Okay. So as we start to wrap things up, as we're pushing time, anything that maybe we haven't talked about that you'd like to bring up, Gary?
Well, I think education is probably the best thing, and I was fortunate enough to be the guy that started the logistics program at Bakersfield College. A lot of these kids didn't know what a pallet was. I said, hey, we talked about a pallet. I said, can you tell us what a pallet is? I said, so I had to do a thing on what's a 2-way pallet, 4-way pallet. So the education, we start from square one on these classes, and then once you go through all 5 of them, you're ready to be like a middle manager trainee at some of the distribution warehouses because I've taken a lot of the kids out of the fields to work in the distribution warehouses.
I spoke to a couple of kids at CTEC actually for when we did our podcast too. They were in the CTEC program, logistics, and they were interning wherever. And they both said, when I'm done, I'm going to go work for these companies when I graduate high school because of the training they already had with CTEC and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's great.
CTEC is the high school level, and if you get into my classes, that's the college level. But I mean, a lot of them go right to high school and they want to start their career, and I respect that.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
If they don't want to go to college,
But it's becoming a career
It
path
is.
for young people now in the county.
Yes.
They see logistics and they understand that it is a viable career option.
Well, I mean, one of the fun things that my guy that I got out of the field went to work for Dollar General. I said, Lorenzo, I said, did you work yesterday, Labor Day? Oh, yeah. I said, well, did you get time and a half? He goes, no, I got double time. I said, did you ever get double time out in the fields? Oh, no, I did not. I said, that's amazing because, you wouldn't get that out in the field. And then they worked through a contractor. But, I mean, he was delighted that he's got, all the other benefits.
Right.
Health is the big issue, and then retirement. And all those start accruing from day one at a lot of the DCs.
Ron, anything in closing?
I just want to say I want to really thank you guys for bringing us up here and letting us give you a piece of our past history. And this thing with the KTF is just a wonderful opportunity for the community to get out and hear what these people that are in the hierarchy of transportation, and they can tell us what they're doing and how they can improve transportation. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, the future of transportation is the theme for this year's conference. Again, KernTransportationFoundation.org and get all the information. Wednesday, May 13th, over at C-Tech on Old River Road. Greg,
I don't have anything. Thank you, Key.
great conversation.
Yeah.
Corey?
Appreciate
No,
it.
thank you, gentlemen, for coming, and I appreciate the work you're doing as well.
Absolutely. Folks, we appreciate the time you spend with us here at Tehatchapod. Should you have a question regarding today's topic, whether it's for Ron or Gary or one of us here, we're more than happy to receive that, pass it along. Send it to media@TehachapiCityHall.com. We'll catch you again soon on a future episode of Tehatchapod.
You've been listening to Tehatchapod. If you have a question, a thought, or a suggestion, email media@TehachapiCityHall.com. We'll catch you again soon right here on Tehatchapod.